I'm not happy, okay? I can tell you, I'm not happy. Okay.
I can't blame him either. They canceled Sex and the City 3. What's the world coming to? I don't mind the kneeling. No, I'm sick of the kneeling. I haven't been this sick of something since I ate a pound of candy corn and then rode the teacups. That was last year. There hasn't been this much talk about kneeling since Monica Gate. It's absurd. It's just a game. I haven't seen this kind of attention devoted to grown men in tight outfits, standing, kneeling, locking arms since the Village People. I blame the NFL for cowering before peer and media pressure. Trump's kind of right. People are scared. Standing up to identity politics makes you a bigot. I also blame the internet, cable. I blame myself. This story won't die because we won't let it. This whole thing reminds me of a spat at a Walmart that gets out of hand. Everyone starts gawking and then strangers join in. 1 hour later, it's a police action because someone's not wearing pants and a lady lost her wig. You see it on World Star. Then everyone goes home. Well, it's time to go home. Time to let it die. Could you see these protests spreading? Sorry, passengers on Delta Flight 451. Our plane can't depart until everyone locks arms and sings John Lennon's Imagine. Fact is, your protest sucks if people have to keep explaining what it is. You say it's not about the flag. Well, why do it during the anthem? If you really mean it, kneel on the field during an actual play. The Cleveland Browns have been doing it for years. So, or if you claim it's about police brutality, then protest the police. They're right there on the field protecting you. But that might be too scary. Anyway, the worst part, we've given the word kneel a bad name. Neil, it's linked to so many good things. Neil Diamond, Neil Sedaka, Neil Armstrong, Neil Patrick Harris, and of course, Neil Cavuto. Neil, he makes me squeal. So, enough with the NFL pointing out the wrongs of society. Let's point out the wrongs of the NFL, and I'm not just talking about the head injuries. First, these games, they're overhyped, overlong, and the players are overindulged. It's no longer a sport, but a celebration of excess. If the NFL were a restaurant, it would be garish and loud, like a hula hands in hell. And it would take 4 hours to get your meal. You could only eat for 45 seconds, and then you'd have to sit and wait for 2 minutes before eating again. That's the NFL. Long periods of nothing, followed by tiny increments of something. Perhaps it's time to embrace a real sport, one that can be played by anyone, young, old, white, black, fat, thin, short. A sport that makes it impossible to be divisive.
Are you tired of the same old tackles, touchdowns, and endless TV timeouts? Then America, it's time to go bowling. Sunday, forget the pigskin and get ready for greasy 3-hole balls, snack bar food cooked by a light bulb, and shoes that have been Lysoled thousands of times. Bowling. Bowling is so American that all demographics love it. Guys, girls, geeks, jocks, goths, dorks, punks, geezers, moms, dads, and even babies. Bowling. And the first 1 million Americans to go bowling this Sunday get a free cassette player. So if you're ready for a pin bashing, finger spraining, everyone can do it thrilling. Strap in, chum. It's bowling time. Bowling.
It's time, America. Let's throw a strike for freedom. Wearing someone else's smelly shoes never felt so good. Let's welcome tonight's guest. She flew here on a ladybug. She's one of my co-hosts on The Five and will now be anchoring the Daily Briefing. Starting Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern, Data Perito. If looks could kill, she could prosecute herself for murder. Just to make it clear. She's also one of my co-hosts on The Five, Miss Kimberly Guilfoyle. And when life gives her lemons, she throws them at poor people. National Review reporter Kat Tim. And as a child, buildings were his actual building blocks. Former bodyguard and my massive sidekick, Tyrus. So, Tyrus, like me, you played...
In what way?
I was going to say that we played in arena football.
Yeah.
But I retired. You were injured. What is your...
Injured? I moved on. You know what? Please ask your question.
What is your take? I have a feeling that you are kind of in a tough bind because you played, you were in camp at the NFL, and you know the, I don't know, the turf to speak.
Well, I know the work that it takes just to get there.
Yeah.
And to stay there is a whole other thing. And I've been, first and foremost, this has been a tough week for me because I've seen a lot of ugliness. Mm-hmm. And my argument is not on what's on both sides. Yeah. People are passionate about their love of country. Mm-hmm. And as a black man in America, I'm an American, I'm a black man, there is things in our country that bother me. And the fact that we have great policemen. We have great policemen in this country, and I support them, and I've been on this show for 2 years. Yes. And I've supported them. But we also have things that are not okay and bad things that happen. What Kaepernick did, and Kaepernick was not the perfect messenger. He sometimes acted like he had 1 month of black history and was a complete moron sometimes. I'll give him that. But his message, he took a knee during anthem because that was for the voices that couldn't be heard in his opinion. And then we had problems that we talked about on this show, and we got through it, and we eventually came down to, as long as it was peaceful, he was being a citizen, and we moved on. Mm-hmm. To use that for a few cheers at a rally, to me, that's where we missed the point. Mr. Trump, you're better than that. If you can't talk about anything else in Alabama about football, are you kidding me? They're national champions every other year. Greatest college town in America. Like, there was things you could have talked about. Using that on that platform was so divisive and heartbreaking for me because he's not going to feel affected from it. He's not going to be in that bar. He's not going to be walking to school. He's not going to get spit on that protester. That's us, the people, regular people who are fighting this fight now. That it was for a soundbite, for what he thought. And like I said, I support Mr. Trump as much as I can. He didn't think much of his base that night because he thought that's what they needed to hear. They didn't need to hear that.
Can I just, when I looked at that, I felt that he was, the reason why Trump got elected is that, like it or not, he is us. And you've said it. He's like your uncle.
He's also the worst of us.
Yeah, but it can be. But he also.
We didn't need. My point was, I work very hard to always, whether I agree or disagree, to respect the office of the President of the United States. And I felt that the President of the United States and the White House, the office, didn't respect me.
Okay, fair enough. I think that he was a viewer, not a president. When he gets up there and he talks, he's talking like a viewer about football. You know, that's the way I see it. But I totally respect what you said, even though I disagree with you, because that's what's beautiful about this show.
Yeah, and you know what? We can have that conversation.
Yes. All right. Well, Dana, you don't get that on Fox and Friends. Or maybe you do. I'm just never up.
You're sleeping it off. It was interesting. I really admired a lot of the aftermath in some ways, and I know that I agree in terms of the painfulness of it, and I also think some of the language, the choice, especially SOBs, it was the thing that stung and it hurt and it made it even worse. Interestingly, a lot of the writers, and I'll point out a couple, Jonathan Last at the Weekly Standard wrote a piece saying, let's look at the fact that it's not just one incident of police brutality that they were talking about, and he lists all of them. And it made me try to look at this from another perspective. You know, I grew up in Wyoming. We went to rodeos on the weekends, not
and you
football.
bowled.
I did bowl.
Yes.
My Aunt Patty Sue in Rawlins, Wyoming, owns Memory Lanes, and that we did bowl. But we, of course, we stood with our hands over our heart.
You bowled with a marble.
That's a good one.
Yes.
You should have saved that for one of your openings because you're going to run out of material. Anyway, my point is that there was a lot of thoughtfulness actually that happened this week, and towards the end of the week, as the players start to decide what they're going to do at the weekend for the fans to try to get back to football, that there is a movement for criminal justice reform in the country, and there could be a bipartisan movement. There's a lot of conservatives that agree with a lot of independents, like Rand Paul on the libertarian side, and then on the liberal side, there actually is a way to get policy to move forward so that people that feel like they are protesting are actually being heard, and everybody can, as you said, go home.
Yeah. You know, Kimberly, I think that one of the probably the big positive things was, I mean, I find the whole idea of these symbolic gestures to me a little silly. It's just grown men, and but it's all. It doesn't matter what political side. It just drives me a little crazy. Right. I have to hand it to Dallas for separating the protest from the anthem, because I think that was, like, as Trump said, was progress, and it ended up pushing it to some sort of solution, maybe.
Yeah, I think you're making a fair point, because, you know, look, I appreciate the emotion, the passion, and the life experience, you know, for Tyrus, what you've gone through from people that you know, that you've worked with also professionally. It takes a lot of courage to be able to put yourself out there, especially when, you know, your job is on the line as well, and you have the president saying something. But at the same time, I'm also looking at, okay, I think the president's made those comments spontaneously. I don't think that was something that he planned, you know, on saying. But when he's speaking, and he went an hour, 20 minutes or whatever over time, he does a lot of this that's extemporaneous, and there's things that he says that sometimes people are like, whoa, we want to take it back, we want to keep him on prompter. But at the same point, I think he was approaching, like you said, from a viewer or like a business perspective. I want to give him, you know, the benefit of the doubt while still respecting the other side to say, okay, the players want to do something to let people know that even though they have a lot in line with their salaries, et cetera, they're willing to take a stand because they hear the voices out there and the social injustice and want everybody to know, be strengthened by their position to say it's not falling on deaf ears. Dallas, however, what they did was they carved it out, and they separated it out a little bit to say, we're going to acknowledge, but we're not going to tie it to something that could also be offensive to military, to veterans, the people who have fought and bled and died. That means something to them, too, and I think we need to be respectful of that so they don't feel diminished in the process, or that people aren't really, you know, understanding the full impact of the anthem and the flag.
You know, Kat, I just go back to this idea that this got out of hand. It just feels like it was a ball that got rolling, and it's like if you polled America, this was not part of the. This is not something that is part of their lives. I will say, nonviolent protests, I'm all for it. Given the stuff that we see on the streets with Antifa, this is good. It's good that people do this, but you gotta, if you're taking a risk, you gotta know you're gonna upset people, or it's not a protest.
Right. Well, part of the reason why it got so big was because of President Trump's SOB comment. That's when more people jumped in. Yeah, it's a peaceful protest. Institutional racism when it comes to criminal justice is a real thing. It's good to see people protesting peacefully. The reason they're able to do that, though, is because this is a country where that's allowed. And I think that as long as you are being very, very open about both of those things, Colin Kaepernick did a bad job of that, you know.
Wearing the socks pissed me off. The socks.
Like I said, he was imperfect.
And in a shirt.
He's not Arthur Ashe. I'm sorry, Kat. He's not.
Yeah, but you have to respect it and start a conversation. But has it really been working? Because now we're all just talking about kneeling. So I respect it. I also really, really love to see that we are in a country where you're allowed to peacefully protest something like this. Because in any other country, you could get your head cut off for doing something like that. So I'm very grateful to be an American.
Very good, Kat. I'm grateful to be American, too. So, what do you guys think about Tom Price resigning?
How did he not think he was going to get caught for that?
Expensing a private plane?
Expensing a private. That's not like buying a donut on the company car. People are going to notice.
The price is wrong, bitch.
No, you know what it is? It's like I get worried when I do my personal mail on the company. Like when I pay a bill, when I throw it in, I shouldn't have actually said I did that.
Oh my gosh.
Got him. All right, wrap it up.
He's going to be awake all night worrying about that.
Come on in, guys. We got him. This has been
I'm talking about my previous
I worked for the Federal Post Office.
When I worked at a previous job, not
and now
here.
you pay all your bills electronically, so it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Thank you, Dana. All right. Well, we covered Tom Price, didn't we?
Exactly.
Coming up, China cracks down on North Korea and other stuff the president did while no one was looking. So while the nation was reeling over kneeling, what was lost in the sauce was pretty appealing. Pretty good. The economy grew at its fastest rate in 2 years. Unemployment shrinking. A new tax plan was unveiled. And, of course, Kim Kardashian is pregnant. I think all the Kardashians are pregnant. But the best news is that China started getting tough with North Korea. This week, China ordered all North Korean companies on their turf to shut down by January. China's abiding by the UN sanctions, but the Trump administration should get some credit, too. How many times have we heard Donald say this?
China can come out and, frankly, they will, they say they don't have that much control over North Korea. They have total control, because without China, they wouldn't be able to eat. We should put pressure on China to solve the problem.
And now China's helping. It's tough diplomacy, which beats strategic patience, which is the name of Dobbs's yacht. And this, frankly, makes me feel more secure. Now I can stop freaking out and return to my favorite hobby.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Good.
Yeah, I got a free ride on that. Kimberly, this is great news, but it illustrates how President Trump works and why people keep getting him wrong. He starts out like at one side, and it's like really tough, and then all of a sudden people get like, oh, he's crazy, and then all of a sudden they're kind of listening and they're changing.
And then somehow he waves a magic wand and a solution or a good outcome, something favorable comes out of it. Yeah, so look, with North Korea, people were very angry and upset. Remember when he was talking about fire and, fury, and then the way he was pushing China, he said, wow, we're going to alienate somebody that we were starting to work with, because they had a very good meeting to begin with. But then when he put the pressure on them, they did step up. They did agree in terms of the sanctions. So this has been very favorable, but you don't really see people giving him the credit for that outcome.
Dana, it's something about unpredictability that creates a new strategy. You don't have to necessarily tell people what you're doing.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories of the week, as you brought up on the 5, was how the North Koreans were calling Republicans in Washington, D.C. to say, help us understand. Like, what does this mean? How does this work? What this has proven is that Donald Trump is now calling the shots in Asia, because the sanctions are getting to the point that the Chinese realize if they don't do more, they're going to have a problem. In addition, there's something that's happening in China that is also pressing on this. There's going to be one of their big communist meetings that happens every 5 years. It's called a Congress, but it's not really a Congress. And the leader does not want to be embarrassed. They want stability at all costs. And so they're trying to get ahead of it. This starts October 18th or something like that. And so I think that China is trying to show that we've got this, we're in charge, because the last thing that he wants to do is lose face.
Kat, Dana brings up, quite unusually, a good point. North Korea is running around town talking to anybody about Trump. They're like an obsessed ex, that's asking all of her friends if she's dating somebody else. That means you got North Korea over a barrel.
Absolutely.
Metaphors there.
And I don't mind not knowing what's going on exactly, as long as I don't get blown up. That's the most important. That's like number 1 on my list of things every day. Don't get blown up is very important. But also relating to that, trying to tell the mainstream media that President Trump actually did something good is like trying to tell a woman that her ex-husband's new girlfriend isn't that bad. Like, she might make a great pot roast, but you don't want to hear it. Like, she makes a great pot. Oh, she actually, no, she doesn't. Why you turned on me? That's exactly how emotional it really is.
That is so true. That is exactly what everybody acts like when it comes to Trump. Tyrus, instead of pushing a button, he's pushing their buttons.
Well, to go to, and I was thinking about this, and then, Ms. Perino's on, so I was thinking about dogs and stuff. With her dog's awesome. If you don't know about it, you better ask somebody.
Oh, nobody knows about Jasper.
Yeah.
Secret dog.
You know what? He unfollowed you on Instagram because he was jealous of your dog.
No, he followed me because he didn't want to see the pictures of my dog.
Was jealous.
I don't care.
This is the time for this right now.
It is. I'm bringing it. Let me bring it together. Let me just do this. Those sanctions.
Yeah.
And when they come down, the people are going to get really hungry.
Yeah.
I think and Zhang is going to be hoping, we're loyal. North Koreans are loyal. There was another dude, Ramsey. Remember that? He said his dogs were loyal. When they tied him in the chair and left him alone with dogs, and he was sanctioned from everything else, the dogs ate his ass. So
that's a Game of Thrones reference.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
These people are going to end up. They're going to change regime within. They're going to have it's going to happen from within. One of his generals will be like, yeah, that's a good call. Bop.
All right, there you go. Still to come. Oh, we have so much good stuff. Michelle Obama scolds women who voted for Trump instead of Hillary. She also ruined school lunches, so what does she know? They blame gender for her surrender. This week, Michelle Obama scolded female Trump supporters in front of an audience at a business conference in Boston, a city in Massachusetts. She said the former First Lady, quote, "Any woman who voted against Hillary Clinton voted against their own voice. What does it mean for us as women that we look at those two candidates and many of us said, that guy, he's better for me. His voice is more true to me." Well, to me, that just says you don't like your voice. You like the thing you're told to like. I don't get this. No one likes their own voice. Have you ever listened to your own voicemail? It is horrifying. I hated my voice when this show first started.
Hi, I'm Greg Gutfeld. Welcome to my new desk, and thanks for not watching CSI. It's a rerun.
That was before I took vocal lessons with Sebastian Gorka. Meanwhile, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg also discussed Hillary Clinton's failed campaign.
You think sexism played a role in that campaign?
Do I think so?
Yes.
I have no doubt that it did.
Do you think it was decisive?
That it was
decisive. In other words, if Hillary Clinton had been a man, she would have won that election going away.
There's so many things that might have been decisive, but that was a major factors.
Sure, but here's another factor.
Why aren't I 50 points ahead, you might ask?
You want to talk about voice, Michelle? Imagine listening to that voice for 4 years. All right, Kat, is this insulting to insinuate that a woman must vote by gender, or is this some kind of exception?
Absolutely, it's insulting. I think, and this is a radical idea here, but if you're going to be a feminist, what you should say is that a woman can vote for whoever she wants to vote for. Right? I also don't understand the part where they're saying because she's a woman is why she lost. If they really thought that was true, then why was the whole campaign theme just I'm a girl?
Yeah, that's so true. That's true. Dana, as you know, I support women voting.
How novel of you.
Another radical take.
Yeah, it's another radical take. Is there any validity to this sexism, this accusation of sexism?
I think that Sarah Palin could also make that case, okay, that there were women who didn't want to vote for her. Yeah. But why? Like, if you look at the policies, did it make more sense to vote for somebody else other than her? I think that women have been talking about sexism so much that now, like, it's sort of like the kneeling thing. We're all aware of it. Yeah. And it all exists, and now we can all operate on our own merits and see if we can win.
Yeah. Tyrus, I believe it was hard in this election for either gender to vote for either candidate because it wasn't about the sex, though, or their gender.
It never is about the sex. Listen, this is... I would rather juggle grenades than have to answer this one because no matter what I say, it's because it's a woman. It's not sexism, feminism. It's cattyism. They just women just.
I think the real problem
is, for example, I'll be out to lunch with my girl or something, and a girl will walk by. I will not look because I stay in my food, and she'll be like, "Look at her with her fake hair. Thinks she's better than everybody." I'm like, huh? What? Those aren't real. That's not real. Those aren't. I'm like, dang, all that from just a walk by? Cattyism. Hillary has suit pants. They like skirts. I ain't voting for her. Dressing like that.
What's wrong with fake hair?
Here we go. See, that's why
I
pass the rest of my time.
You know what the real problem with this whole thing?
You can't win.
I think the real problem is that Hillary Clinton herself has said it, and the former First Lady Michelle Obama is suggesting it, which is that women that voted for Trump were told to do so by their husbands. That's where this is coming from, and that's why it's so offensive.
I can't get a plate of food, let alone somebody, hey, bring me a drink. Right. Go down to the courthouse and vote for Trump, woman. I'll be here. Right. have to be sleeping
that
in this
does not
chair.
work. That does not work at my house either, Kimberly.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I didn't like the comments at all, and you know, so I didn't have any kind of problem with Michelle Obama. I thought she was a good first lady and represented the country well. Didn't love the school lunch thing though, because they weren't so tasty. Lots of kale in them.
Yeah.
But I think that it's insulting when you try to tell other women, like, first of all, what about the women that are out there and working and aren't married? They don't have a husband telling them what to do, and the ones that are married, their husband's not telling them what to do either. I think it's just assuming it's demeaning to women to say that we can't think for ourselves, can't make a decision for ourselves, and if you made the decision, you're wrong for doing so. You have to vote your conscience and do so from an informed point of view, that you've done your homework and your research, and then feel good about that. I don't think you should ever vote for somebody based on their gender.
Plus, you can always lie to your husband.
Yes.
I've never had one, but I've heard it happen.
We don't want to talk about it any damn way.
Yeah, they want to be lied to.
I'll keep that in mind.
Always. Yes, I'm handsome. Yes, I'm skinny. Yes, I'm smart.
You don't want
I'll
to be
take it.
skinny.
No, I'm jacked, but I'm just saying I prefer it.
Coming up, the man who put a staple in every model's belly button is dead. R.I.P. HEF. He finally got off. Hugh Hefner, who founded Playboy magazine in 1953, died this week at age 91. Hef, short for Hefner, Dana, was credited as a sexual revolutionary in the 1960s, turned Playboy into a global entertainment empire, including clubs, clothing, hotels, and of course a TV channel, which I never saw. I can't stress that enough. The magazine's circulation peaked at about 7 million in the 70s, yet Hefner's circulation seemed to keep going and going. When asked in 1992 by the New York Times of what it was to be, what he was proudest of, said Hefner that I changed attitudes towards sex. So let's pause to remember the best parts of Playboy. If your children in the room, they should totally stay for this. Yes, it was always the articles. All right. I don't even. Kat.
Yes.
Was he good or bad for women?
Okay, well, for me, one of my ex-boyfriends, after he broke up with me, immediately started dating a Playboy bunny. So I have a little bit of resentment around the issue. However...
How was her pot roast?
However, yeah, exactly.
Yeah!
It's okay. Yeah. But you have to give him credit.
Yes.
You have to give him credit for seeing an opening in the market that I would have never thought existed. Think about how many men are into women, attractive women dressed up as lagomorphic mammals. Okay? He discovered that and he made millions off of it. Who would have ever thought of that? So, you know what? God bless capitalism. God bless the free market, and may he rest in peace.
You know, it's interesting when I look at this, Dana, about how when you look at Playboy, this and what it's compared to today, it's like highlights or the Weekly Reader. In the old days, you had.
I love the Weekly Reader.
Of course you would. That's why I brought it up. Or Dynamite. Do you remember Dynamite?
Yes, I love Dynamite.
Yes.
I'm losing track of my thought. Okay, in the old days, you had to try hard to find something like Playboy. You had to sneak a look at it at the barber shop or keep it hidden in a hedge in the park. We used to call it hedge porn. Now it's everywhere, and I wonder what that's doing to kids or teenagers. They see stuff that most guys don't see in a lifetime 50 years ago.
David French of National Review wrote a piece about how the proliferation of pornography has destroyed many relationships, marriages.
Yeah.
I don't know about younger people, but you do see these studies that say millennials are like, they're perfectly fine to sit home all weekend. They don't want to meet anybody. They're good back at home. And if it hadn't been Hefner, would it have been somebody else eventually? Yeah. Probably. And to say that you don't think he was amazing makes you sound like a prude.
Yeah.
And I really don't care what people do in their bedrooms. I just prefer not to see it.
I do care, actually. So I installed the cameras. Kimberly, I run a small bed and breakfast.
Oh, my goodness.
Very small.
Very small, yes. Wow.
Yeah.
All right, Kimberly. Have you ever been to the mansion?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
No further questions.
Yes. With clothes on, costume for
Yes,
the
yes.
Halloween party.
Mhm.
So I've met him on a few occasions. Nice man. I know people he has known for years that he's done business and stuff with.
Yeah.
In other enterprises.
Business.
Yes, business. But no, I mean, look, obviously he was a pioneer in his field, and he was able to be, very successful. I hear your points in terms of what it's done to, I think, just the way people even relate or try to meet someone these days, because there's such a proliferation of pornography and images online that, yeah, I think people grow up with unrealistic expectations.
That is true, except until they meet you. They go, well, she matches the expectations.
Thanks, Greg.
Yes. No, that was a compliment. All right. Tyrus,
Great.
I hear feminists saying how progressive he was, but I know, and I at least from reading, that he wouldn't allow playmates to have their boyfriends at the mansion, yet he could have as many partners as he wanted, but the woman couldn't have partners because how is that progressive?
Okay, first of all, he's player hater. I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Keep the field. I get it. But Hef, to me, I met him too. I've been to the mansion a couple times. Me and Snoop went there once, and we actually did a mock TV show called Dog After Dark, which was
I remember.
of his old Playboy After Dark. Of course, ours didn't do as well. But some of the things he did socially, I think, were amazing. Like he gave us Dick Gregory. He gave controversial black comics opportunities when they weren't there. Like he was kind of his chauvinist wise women, I get your beef with him. He exploited women and he made a lot of money off it. But some of the civil rights things he did, he was kind of ahead of his time in terms of, he didn't have to be that way. He chose to be that way. He was a guilty conscience that he wasn't treating women. And then, the biggest thing for me, like straight up, like, you made the bathroom fun, bro. Thank you.
Look at Dana. Oh my God.
I don't know what he means, America. All right, we've got to move on. Still to come, she worked at the NSA and stuffed documents into her pantyhose. And who did she blame? Us. That's next. Her name is Reality Winner, and she's anything but. You may remember she was accused last year of leaking classified report about Russian election meddling. This week, a transcript of her interrogation was released, and you'll never believe what she blamed for her behavior. She told investigators, quote, I filed formal complaints about them having Fox News on, at least for God's sake, put Al Jazeera on, or a slideshow with people's pets. I've tried everything to get that changed. Her solution to this problem, apparently treason. I don't know, maybe go to HR first. That's what they're there for, dealing with complaints and organizing charity fund runs. Meanwhile, all TVs at NSA headquarters will now run this. I'd watch that nonstop, Dana. As someone whose face is often on the network and will be on the network even more, can you believe it?
Yeah.
Do you take personal offense to this?
No. Well, I take offense that there's this really educated, talented woman who was able to get the top secret security clearance, who basically throws her entire life away for something so stupid. I do take offense to that because she owed herself better. She really let herself down. She is bankrupting her parents. She committed a crime against the country for something, a news story that was going to come out anyway.
Yes.
And I think she was being flippant when she talked to the FBI. Maybe not smart enough to realize that will actually be used against her in court and here on the court of Fox News.
And Kat, what do you say? Do you have anything to say about this?
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised that she's so sensitive. You think she would have some tougher skin after most certainly being made fun of for her name her whole life.
Yes.
Right?
She was also in the Air Force.
And also, just ladies, word of advice, if you are putting anything in your pantyhose besides a foot or a leg, and that's what you're doing in your life, you run from that life.
Yes.
Don't do that. It never ends well.
Yes, that's true. That's why I stopped wearing pantyhose.
Just legs in mine.
Legs and feet. Anything other than that, and you don't want to be doing that.
She's even pantyhose.
You know, Kimberly, that's true. You know, guys don't have places to hide things, and that's sexist.
Yes, I know. Well, you can put on some pantyhose if you like. We
I
won't
have.
judge you.
Well, I had big hair. I used to wear pantyhose on my head to keep my wave down, but I mean, that's neither here nor there.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but I agree with Dana. This woman is it's so sad that, you know, she had so little regard, yes, for her country, for her family, you know, for the rest of us, and also the fact that she's sitting there blaming Fox News. I mean, that's not inspiration at all. That's like just ridiculous. It shows me that, I mean, she's really lacking in intellect if she thinks she's going to try and get away with this by blaming the fact that she's like upset in the NSA because she doesn't have a safe space because she doesn't like to listen to Fox. Really? That makes her incredibly unsympathetic.
Yes.
I think it should make us feel better that the NSA is watching Fox News.
That's true. I agree. Yes.
Maybe they're really watching.
Yeah.
Tyrus, I mean, maybe her beef is legitimate. Like, if I was I go to the gym, Equinox, and they always have the E channel on, and it drives me crazy because all I see they have botched plastic surgery.
You go to the gym and you watch TV?
Yes, they have TVs. Yes. I go on the stair climber. I'm not like you, Tyrus.
# pot roast. Look, I love irony. I love funny jokes. Like, if my name was arithmetic, but I kept failing math, people would probably make fun of me. Her name was Reality, right?
Yeah.
Reality loser.
So in reality, it means Echoes is real life. So she should know that creating a crime in the real world, you're going to end up in jail. Like, she should have been a little smarter than that. She had security clearance, so she knew all the rules.
I think
I think it would be better. Her name was like Fantasy.
Like, I've met some women named
espionage.
Fantasy.
Like, I mean,
They're usually dancers, though, Tyler.
I'm sure her dad at some point leaned in and be like, "We named you Reality for a reason." Jeez.
I don't know. Maybe it was in the family. Maybe that name was in the family.
Really?
I don't know. I've never met anybody named Reality.
Or Winner.
I'm barely in reality.
No kidding.
Kimberly, that was unnecessary. Really, really.
But
all right.
Dad was like, "This is my reality. This is my what did you say? Reality. Be a great name." Like, maybe that was his deal. You know?
Hey, Dana, since we're talking a little bit about Fox News, anything you'd like to tell us about the new show?
Yeah. Well, yes. So there's a new show starting Monday, October 2nd, at 2 p.m. Eastern. It'll be called The Daily Briefing with Dana Perino. I'll never forget it. I'll take it with me everywhere, and hopefully we're going to have a chance to have some really good guests, get beyond the headlines, and show people what it's like behind the scenes working in Washington.
If you could, what would be your first ideal guest? And don't say anybody whose name begins with G.
No, that's not on my list.
Yes.
No, I am hoping, and we're trying to make it work out, that Sarah Huckabee Sanders would join me for the first guest. On the
I know her dad.
Yes, I know her dad,
I can call him.
We all know her dad.
I don't know her dad.
Bragger, Greg.
No, but I mean, I have his phone number.
But I think the second Republican woman White House press secretary would be a fitting guest.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That makes total sense.
Thanks for the plug.
You got it. All right, don't go anywhere. Final thoughts next. I will see you Monday on the 5 with these two creeps at 5 p.m. Eastern. We're running out of time, so...
What you wanted to say all show, but haven't had the chance to say, so here's your chance to say it. Right now.
Dana, you have anything?
The only thing I can think of is that I am now 15 days into being off Diet Coke and diet sodas, and I think I deserve a round of applause. It's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy.
I love Diet Coke. It's the greatest tasting chemical ever. Kimberly?
Yes. Okay. So I'm looking forward to football Sunday.
Yeah.
And hoping that people start to heal and listen to each other, treat each other better. So I'm excited about that.
Heal, don't kneel. Heal out. Hashtag. Heal, don't kneel. That's why I'm here. I don't know why. Tyrus, some final thoughts?
I watched Terms of Endearment.
Yes.
And I cried at the end, and I videotaped myself doing it. I'm going to post it after the show. I don't know why that show gets me, but like when she's talking to her kid, I'm like, oh, man,
You're a sensitive person. You're a
No, I'm
big
tough.
teddy bear.
I'll whoop your ass and cry to you about it.
Yes. And you know what? I'd pay you to do it.
No, you wouldn't.
I know a club.
It's only a one-time deal. Like, you're not coming back.
That work out well for you, Greg.
Oh, and hashtag pot roast.
Okay, there you go. Last word, Catherine.
I had 2 bagels today.
Wow.
How am I supposed to expect other people to respect me when I so clearly don't respect myself?
I don't believe she had 2 bagels because we'd see it. We'd see
On
2 little bagels.
one of them, I had half butter, half cream cheese, and the other one I had avocado and hard-boiled eggs.
Yeah, if you had 2 bagels, you would basically see
looked
2
like a dumbbell.
eyeballs.
I'm
in
like
your stomach.
90% bagel
Little eyeballs.
Yeah.
Right around
There's
your
no way she
right
had
around-
2 bagels.
All right.
I did have a Diet Coke.
Thanks to Dana Perino, Kimberly Guilfoyle, Catherine Tick, Pirate, our studio audience. I love you, America. You break that.